Hi everybody and welcome to AdEspresso's May webinar. As you can probably see from the screen there, today we're going to be talking about ad creative for Facebook and Instagram ads there, how to design some high performing ads. But just before we jump into today's live training, a little bit of housekeeping. I know I cover this all the time, but we get asked a lot, are we recording? Yes, we are. So don't think you need to take too many notes. If there's anything that you missed, you can go back over the recording. We're going to send it to everybody by email within 24 hours of this live session finishing. We also put it on our website, so go to adespresso.com/webinars and you can get the replay there. And also we've got our YouTube channel. Just search for AdEspresso on YouTube and you can find it there. Also, this session is designed to be very interactive. My colleague Margarita is monitoring chat today. So if you've got any technical issues or if you've got a question for the end of the webinar, anything to do with your ad strategy, pop a message in there and we'll get to as many questions as possible. Also, if you want to put in chat where you're joining us from today, it's always nice to see where you're joining from. I can see Claire from Chapel Hill, Shelby from Louisville, we've got Roxanne and Christine from Philippines. Wow, 1 in the morning. Thank you for joining us so late. Jivan from India. So we've got Tennessee, Spain, Dubai, Romania. We've got a really global audience there. So thank you everybody for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time today. So just a little bit about myself so you know about my credibility for delivering today's training. My name's Paul. I'm the head of training and education here at AdEspresso, which is a Hootsuite company. If you've got any questions after this webinar, if we don't get them to them at the end of the Q&A section at the end, just drop me an email, paul@adespresso.com. I reply to every email that I get there. And then my experience for delivering training on ad creative. I've audited campaigns from over 1,000 Facebook ad accounts, so I'm seeing what's working across different industries, different regions, different sizes of businesses. And I personally manage about $2 million of ad spend every year for clients, and I've done that over the last 5 years that I've been working here at AdEspresso and Hootsuite. And I do lots of strategy calls with clients as well, everything from small businesses spending $20 a day on ads up to those kind of billion and even $10 billion revenue businesses that have obviously got larger budgets there. So hopefully that gives you a little bit about my background for delivering today's training. And what are we going to be covering today? We're going to break it down into 2 parts. First of all, we're going to be looking at the high level, the sort of big picture about your brand, customer avatars and funnels. Which is something that's not normally covered with ad strategy, but I think is actually really important. I'll explain that in a second. And then we go down into more the nuts and bolts. We actually look at the breaking apart the different components of the ads, then look at the images, videos, headlines, text, and finally the call to action button there. And then just a couple of slides on Instagram stories. So you might be thinking, is this presentation right for you? Is it worth spending the hour on this? So this presentation is for anybody that's looking for simple and replicable processes to succeed with their Facebook ads. It could be that you are new to advertising on Facebook and Instagram and need to hit the ground running, get up to speed quickly. Or it could be that you are a small, medium business and you've either got a small marketing team or maybe you're a solopreneur and you've got limited budgets to spend on ad creative. Not everybody can afford top-end copywriters and lots of graphic designers and things. So I think you'll find this presentation useful. And then also we have a lot of clients that are agencies. I've trained a lot of agency clients as well. And generally agencies are very busy. You need a proven system, a fast and effective way of creating ads at scale. So this is who the presentation's for. Now, I will say there are some things that we won't be covering today. So we won't be going into super advanced copywriting because that'd be a whole probably series of webinars on its own. We also won't be going into too much detail on different ad formats. I'm aware there's loads of specialist ad formats that Facebook have got, but we're just going to be covering the basics today. I think that it's going to be universal to most ad formats, but just to give you a heads up there. Also with Instagram stories, I'm only going to be covering a couple of slides. That might be a future webinar to do a deep dive into that, but we won't be doing it today. But bear in mind is that a lot of times with Facebook ads, it's a short form format. We'll be covering ad copy length later, but generally you just need to get across the key point immediately in the ad there. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need really flowery, lengthy ad copy or anything super advanced. Doing the basics well will get you 90% of the way there. So I think having a very good structure, a process that you use for your creating your ad copy is what's going to be important there. So just before we dive into today's strategy, let's just have a quick recap on why ad creative is so important for you. First of all, got some stats from Facebook. This is some stats that they lifted from a study by Nielsen. Top line message there is that 56% of the brand's sales lift from their digital advertising was due to the quality of the creative. And on mobile devices, it's actually even more important than that. Another table here from Facebook. I know there's lots of figures here, but the main one to look at is in the top right, that the ad creative there, especially on mobile devices, had 37% impact on the outcome of the ROI there. So this is just like keeping it very simple, but they've extracted that data. They show again and again that ad creative is very important to the outcome of your ads. Another way that I look at it is that of all the levers and dials that we've got in Facebook's ad systems, a lot of the technical, the kind of geeky elements now are kind of automated, or Facebook's certainly doing the heavy lifting for us. Whereas ad creative is where we've got free reign to really make a big impact on things. You know, just consider some of the main levers on Facebook. Bidding these days, you can't go too far wrong with lowest cost bidding, which is also called automatic bidding. In terms of which audience you allocate your budget to, CBO, which is campaign budget optimization, it does a pretty good job of handling that for you. Audiences, again, you can't go too far wrong if you just choose lookalike audiences. Give Facebook a good seed audience. It gives you a good audience for cold traffic in return. And even optimization, you've got machine learning and learning phases that do a lot of it for you. So I'm not saying you can't add value there, but Facebook is really helping us a lot there, whereas ad creative is where we need to put most of our resources, our time, our effort into really moving the needle on the outcome of our ad campaigns there. And then I've just got one little disclaimer for you, and that is every brand is unique. When we talk about processes for creating our ads, and I'm going to give you some real world ad examples, just bear in mind is that every brand is different. What works for brand A might not work for brand B. So always be testing, look at your own data, use my suggestions as a starting point to get you going on your journey with your ads. But then always go and A/B test, make sure you've got your proper tracking framework, decide what objectives, goals, and KPIs are important for you there. So yes, use this as a springboard, but then make sure that you're using your own data from there. Great, so that's the overview, and let's dive into the first topic on how to succeed with your ads. And to me, one of the key thing is the brand positioning, which I think I said at the beginning of the webinar, is something that's overlooked but really important. People just focus on straight away going into the headline or the image without really thinking about what their brand stands for. To me, if you know what your brand positioning is, then the ads kind of 50% write themselves. It makes it a lot easier. And if we flip it around and do a 180, where I see people get very confused with their ad writing is they just don't have a brand. They just like make their ads very product orientated, and they don't know what to write in the ad text or what images to use because they don't really know what their brand stands for. So the best way to illustrate this is with some examples. I've chosen life insurance just as a random category for this. I'm going to give you 3 brand examples. The first is one called Vitality. They're all really about health and fitness and family, kind of playing up to the health aspect of life insurance, if you like. they've got some offers like if you do lots of walking and it's tracked on an Apple Watch, then they will reduce the fees that they charge for the insurance. But you can see on their ads, they've got a specific logo, very specific color palette that they're using there. They get across this brand value of families in that middle picture there. Also, the offer, they're really focusing on that in the other ads. So once you know what your brand core values are, it's very simple for any agency or graphic designer to go along and create their ads. Now, let's look at another example of life insurance. Completely different brand, one called Dead Happy. You can see from their name, mentioning death when you talk about life insurance. Very, very playful kind of brand, very different to traditional ones. Look at this. Hey, if you go and die and your partner goes and gets the life insurance, they can buy 1,000 ginger kittens. Completely irreverent, very different style to the first one. But you can see you need to know what your brand stands for. You can't really mix and match the two propositions. Another ad from them, cartoon style, kind of using a bit of swearing. Yeah, again, you know, it either works for your brand or it doesn't, but you need to know what your brand values are. And then what if they're remarketing ads? Again, this is playing on that life insurance thing of like, hey, you're still alive, then you need life insurance. So I'm not saying, you know, that you need to use this informal approach, but you just decide what your brand stands for. Another example here, third example from life insurance, another company, they know what their branding is, their color scheme, they use this umbrella logo a lot in all their ads. And so they've gone for sort of middle of the road, if you don't mind me saying, maybe a little bit more kind of vanilla, but they know what they stand for there. The ad on the left is a cold traffic ad saying start your application. And then the one on the right is a retargeting, restart your quote. You know, that kind of dead happy ads that we've just seen, not everybody's going to resonate with those for life insurance. This company's playing it quite straight. There's not any right or wrong. It's just decide what your values are, and then the ads can kind of write themselves from there. Now, you're probably thinking, how do I know what my brand values are? A really good book. It's very short. It's very actionable. A lot of fun to read. It's not some dry, great big text. It's a book called Zag by Marty Neumeier there. So that's something that's, as you can see, I think on the sticker there, it's one of the 100 best business books of all time. That's something that's worth picking up on a bookshop or Amazon. Very actionable, really help you to think what your brand stands for and how it can stand out for the crowd. Now, example here, this is Walter, our mascot at AdEspresso. You know, just think about your brand values. Have you got a properly designed logo pack, not just something that you got done on one of those extremely cheap kind of generic websites? Know what your fonts are, know what your color palette is. That really helps you with your graphic design there. Now, I just picked some of our ads at random, and you can kind of see straight away they've all got that same look and feel in color schemes, in fonts. Whether we use Walter or not, there's a certain stylistic cartoon style. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's cartoons or you're using photos or videos. It's the fact that people can instantly tell what your style is there. Now, different example from our parent company Hootsuite. They've really fleshed out their style guide, and you'll see there's certain color palettes that they're using, certain fonts, logo positioning, and so on. It just really allows you as a designer or a copywriter to really compose the ads very quickly and make sure they're going to be consistent. So yes, if you get your brand values right, the ads are going to write themselves. Second thing to think about is your customer avatars. And this is basically saying that there's no such thing as the best ad. And instead of using that generic ad, there's the best ad written for a certain specific type of customers. Examples in gym, like if you're running gym ads, maybe not super complex. You're just dividing your ads between males and females and using different images for those. Also, some people join the gym for different reasons. Some people want to bulk up and put on muscle, like in these ads here. Other people want to lose weight and they want to tone up. If you just have this generic ad that says, hey, join the gym and you're going to put on muscle and you're going to lose weight, it's not going to resonate with people. You need to decide on one avatar, and then you need to talk personally to that avatar there. I'm going to give you another example. One I've done personally is I've actually done some consulting for a canned tomato company. Completely random, very bizarre. But yes, there are actually an industry around canned tomatoes, believe it or not. And what they've done there is with their products, they've got like a budget and a premium version. And so what they've done is come up with different customer avatars for those. So the budget brand, they think it resonates with young parents. Key selling points there are all around a price. It's a budget price and convenience. And so when they do their lead magnets, which features different recipes, these recipes are about quick and easy midweek family meals. So it's your kind of one pot chili that you see there. On the other hand, their premium brand, they're pitching that at older professionals. The key selling points there are not to do with price. They're focusing on the quality and also really that comparison, why it's worth paying extra for the premium brand rather than budget. And the recipes are gourmet, like we can see here, penne pasta with olives, obviously the canned tomatoes, some fresh spinach and some beans there. And that's what they're going to be using in their lead magnets. And what this company actually did was to give the different avatars a name. So you really get into the mind of that person rather than just thinking about pixels and algorithms and lookalike audiences and data there. So if you'd like to do this exercise yourself, digitalmarketer.com have got a customer avatar worksheet that you can actually fill in. They've got a blog post explaining how to do that. You can see it on the screen there, or just Google digital marketer customer avatar worksheet and you will come across that one. So I think that's really good to do before you write your ads. Makes the copywriting 10 times easier there. And then the final sort of big picture strategy that we're going to cover is the stages of the funnel, which is really important when you're considering what to put in your ads. You've probably all seen a dozen different sales funnels. It doesn't matter exactly what we call each stage, but you need to get that awareness at the top of the funnel with your cold traffic, your prospecting, and then you go through to the funnel to remarketing. People that already know you are going to evaluate you before signing up as a lead or a purchase there. We actually ran a whole webinar on this in February. So if you've got some time, I think that's worth revisiting. You can go to adespresso.com/webinars and you can watch that. Our webinars are always free. But basically, the summary there is at the top of the funnel, you need people to fall in love with your products and be aware of it. So you're covering the features and benefits, which I'll explain in more depth later, and just really introduce your product and service. Whereas if we do remarketing ads, bottom of the funnel, very different. It's like, okay, here's a discount or here's the price. This is how fast it ships. And I see so many times people create poor quality ads because they're not thinking about the funnels. So top of the funnel, they're like, hey, you don't know our product, but it ships in 2 days. It's like nobody cares about the shipping speed and they fall in love with the product first. So top of the funnel, get that awareness, get that engagement, and the bottom of the funnel, help push them over the line when they're evaluating the product. Usually shorter, more blunt ad text. So we can see if we know what our brand stands for, and we know who our customer is, and then we know where in the sales or lead nurture cycle that person is, it's going to be so much easier to write the ads. Good example here of the funnel stages. This is an organic farm box company. I've extracted some frames here from one of their video ads, and you see top of the funnel for prospecting, they talk about, hey, you know, our boxes are going to be less plastic, they're eco-friendly, and they've got returnable boxes there, so there's no kind of waste packaging. Whereas remarketing, it's like, hey, here's 50% off if you join now. You can see very, very different styles of writing your ads there. So always think about your funnel stages. Great, so that's the high level sort of big picture strategy covered. And now we're going to get much more into the weeds now by having a look at the stages of your anatomy, basically, of a Facebook ad, and then how we can then go to break it down on the different elements like the headlines, the ad text, the graphics, and so on. So this is some ads that we've run in the past, just a standard lead generation ads where we're getting traffic through to the website, and then we're getting the lead on our website now. So, this is the kind of ads that you probably see. I don't know, I'm guessing like 80–90% of your standard ads for lead generation or e-commerce will look very, very similar to this one. And here we are. This is labeling out the different stages. So first of all, what you've got in your ad is the bulk is taken up by an image or video there. And then at the top, you've got what's called your primary text or your ad text. Then underneath, you've got the headline. I know some people get confused because they expect the headline to be at the top, but on Facebook, the headline actually sits underneath the graphic. And then to the right of the headline, you've got the call to action button. Sometimes I abbreviate that to the CTA button. And then underneath, tucked away right at the bottom, you've got the link description there. So that should be called just the description, not the link description. So yeah, just the description there. But that's the 5 main elements of the ads. And if you go to Ads Manager, you'll see that there, that working from the top, you can add an image or video in your media section. And then you go down to the primary text, and then you can put in your headline, and then that description underneath, put in your URL, and then right at the bottom, there's a drop-down menu where you choose your call to action button. Or if you're using AdEspresso, very similar format, just a different order, that we start with your headline at the top, and then you compose your ad text, then you add a image or video, URL, and then link description underneath, and finally your call to action button there. Now, this is my personal preference, so don't take this as 100% concrete, but this is what I see from analyzing lots of data, is that when I'm deciding on the importance of my ad elements, generally the image or video is going to be the most important, then the headline has the most impact. After that, then the ad text, then you get into the more minor things like the call to action button, and then a distant last is probably going to be the link description there. So when you're thinking, where do I start? What do I test first? Where do I put my resources? What's going to really move the needle? The image or the video is definitely the main one. And then think about the headline and then the text after that there. Some little tips when we're composing the ads. I think this is useful to consider when we look at the different elements of the ad scene. Is always design with mobile in mind. What this table is basically saying is that only 1.7% of the audience on Facebook uses a laptop or desktop PC exclusively. So that means 98.3% of the traffic on Facebook are using mobile devices at least part of the time. And about 81% are really only accessing Facebook exclusively on mobile, and then you've got that mix there. There's sort of 17% that use a hybrid there. So the take-home message is that by far the most dominant device is going to be mobile devices there. So that's why we need to test and optimize and compose everything with mobile in mind. Second thing to think about is we're going to be needing some what we call thumb-stopping content. It's because people are accessing Facebook on mobile. They're going to be, and obviously for Instagram, just about all the traffic is on mobile. Then people thumb through very fast through their newsfeed. If you've ever stood behind somebody in a queue when they're surfing Facebook, they're looking at posts very fast. And so what we're trying to do is just capture that attention, have that thumb-stopping content that makes them just stop scrolling through, take notice. And if they take notice, then if we've got a good proposition, hopefully they're going to engage or they're going to click on our ad and do the action that we ask of them. And just some stats here about the time spent viewing a Facebook post. Then what you'll find is that on mobile, people only look at each post for about 1.7 seconds. You've got slightly longer on desktop, you've got about 2.5 seconds, but it's really not long. So again, this is why we need that thumb-stopping content. We've got to get across what we're talking about straight away, which is why I think having a good brand identity is really important, because then if people have seen your ads before, engage with your brand, they're going to recognize your brand straight away, and that's going to help us there. But yes, although these figures look very low, when I've seen stats from other ads like offline ads, you'll find that it's quite similar when people are looking at billboards or newspaper advert. It's very short as well. I think the only exception is TV ads. People tend to watch longer videos on TV there, a bit more of a captive audience. Okay, so we've broken down the ads, just really hammered home the message that you need to be making thumb-stopping content for mobile devices. And now we're going to go through each ad element. So the first thing to consider is, I'm just going to give some tips on images. And obviously graphic design, this could be a whole course here. So I'm just really going to pick out some tips that are really relevant to social media and are sometimes overlooked. So the first tip I'd say is always use bright, high contrast images. Basically, don't use an image like the one in this picture. It's fine sometimes when you've got a graphic designer with a very large screen, a perfect contrast on that screen, or they're printing it out on a nice big billboard. But what we need to remember for Facebook and Instagram, if somebody's on a mobile device, they might be on the move, there might be sunlight. So we just need to really capture that attention in that 1.7 seconds. And the way to do that is to have a much brighter, high contrast image. Black on black saying probably looks great on the graphic designer's glossy screen, but is not going to look any good on a sort of 3-4 inch Android device or something, which is where your target audience is. So make sure that you've always got some real brightness, some nice color there. Everything stands out. That straight away on a small device, when you test it, people can see exactly what the proposition is there. Another thing that's going to help with that is just think about using some filters, kind of like HDR filters here. You can see the difference. Rather than having these sort of dull, washed out colors on the left, you can kind of HDR them. Normally, I quite like the sort of more natural colors. You don't want everything to look too bright and oversaturated. But in ads, I think it's usually, it does help just to get your product to stand out, to stop them thumbing through straight away there. Another tip that I've got for you with images is avoid stock images. We've tested them time and time again. They just don't work on social media. They look like an ad, which means people subconsciously, without even kind of registering the ad, just scroll past it. Especially on Instagram, where it's more kind of natural images. People are taking pictures of their food. They're sort of on the move. Might be slightly not cropped right, slightly out of focus, things like that. But people resonate with that on social media. And then when they see these really stock images, they just don't engage with those. What you'll find with stock is it's so overused. Like the number of images we've seen of the MacBook and coffee cup and that little succulent plant is just crazy. We've pulled up hundreds and hundreds of ad examples. And if I see this, I'm just going to scroll right past it. So create some photos. Even if you just use your smartphone, the chances are that they're going to have that nice look and feel for social media, and people will really engage with them a lot more there. Of course, I always gave that disclaimer at the beginning of the webinar, test what works for you, but that's generally what we see there. Leading on from that about avoiding stock images is that images with people in them generally work very well. This is social media. This is where people are connecting with other people. Think about that. How can you utilize that? Generally, having other people in your ads is what people are going to connect with. And then taking that one step further, eye contact through the screen is incredibly powerful. Like I said at the beginning of the webinar, I've analyzed literally thousands of campaigns. Again and again, I see this eye contact through the screen being extremely powerful. Seems a bit daft. It's like, hey, this guy's through a screen. He's not actually in the room looking at me, but it just makes people stop. And then they can read the headline. If they read the headline, hopefully they'll read your ad text. If you've got a good proposition, then you get the click or you get the engagement or whatever you wanted there. So yes, think about what you see in your organic social media. Just go onto Facebook or Instagram, just scroll through your friends feed and see what you've got there and see if you can replicate that. Of course, different brands got different values, like we saw with the AdEspresso example. We use more cartoony style. but certainly you can't go too far wrong, and very, very cheap and easy and quick to go and use some photo images there. Then another image tip that I've got for you here is think about using user-generated content or UGC. There's a real art to this, that what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at those natural, realistic images that fit in with social media. But I will say that if you use true user-generated content, i.e. submitted by your users, it's generally not very good, unfortunately, because your users aren't thinking about cropping for square images. They don't get the lighting right. There's some random clutter in the background. They're not focusing on the product and so on. So there's a real art to this with professional photography, is that you're trying to create something that looks like it's that kind of ad hoc user-generated content, but is actually saying just cropped, lit well enough to convey across a really positive image of your product. Now, another example here that we can show all the products there in the subscription box, but it fits in with that square nicely. There is stuff in the background you can just about see at the top right, but it's not any kind of clutter. It just looks like somebody's kitchen. So it looks like natural that somebody's got the box, taken the photo, but we can see the glassware without, the light's not too dull, not too bright, everything like that. So yes, a real art to it, but user-generated content is certainly something very much worth thinking about if you've got some physical products that you can use there. If you don't, then like we saw an example from accountancy software, have people in it. Otherwise, maybe have something that fits in with your brand style there. Then moving on from images, I'm going to give you a few tips for video. So the first tip that I've got for video is that most views are going to be with the sound down. I just pulled out, these are I think these are unrelated, but just two different videos that I pulled out some stats on. The one on the left kind of shows you that of over 8,000 video views, only about 2,000 odd were with the sound on. So 3/4 didn't have the sound on there. And then the one on the right kind of shows you sound on versus sound off. Only 11% there had the sound on. So majority of your audience aren't going to have the sound on there. So think about how you can make sense of the video when nobody's listening to the voiceover. So very, very different to say TV ads, where majority of your audience will have the audio up. So I maximize the use of my videos by captioning them. So even if they don't have the sound down, they can still understand what the video's about there. ATTN actually very good examples of Facebook videos, so worth having a look at those there. But yes, they use big, bold captions. What they don't use is the old-fashioned, what's called the SRT captions. SRT is a very old file format for captions. And really what it's designed for is where you're settling down to watch a long form video. So imagine you're on YouTube, you've got the sound down, you put the captions on, but you don't want them taking up the whole screen because then you can't see your main video. So SRT files, they tend to be these little small, quite unobtrusive captions, quite good if you're watching a video in a second language. But when people use them for Facebook ads, they just don't have enough impact because people are watching on a small mobile device. They weren't settling down to watch your video, they're just scrolling through their feed. So that's why we need those big captions to capture their attention, not small ones like this. Then moving on from sound and captions, a little kind of detour about video length. I put out some stats here for this video. What we can see is that of the people reached, there were 932 through plays. That's a 15-second view on Facebook. It's a 75-second video, this, so we can then see the percentages. Like we dropped down to 693 people watched a quarter, 255 watched half, and 182 watched 3/4, and only 111 watched it all. Now, people look at some of these stats, and what they then think that they need to do is like, okay, the majority of the people only watch the first bit of the video, so we'll make my video shorter. And they produce the shorter video and look at the stats and say, hey, most people only watch the first bit, so I'll come up with a shorter video. And it just goes on chasing these shorter and shorter videos. You know, videos used to be sort of the recommended length on Facebook used to be 60 seconds, and then it was 30, and then 15, and then Facebook sometimes is advising 6 seconds. But I would say there's no point in chasing that because you always end up just cutting your videos shorter and shorter. And what I see sometimes with analysis for e-commerce clients is the longer videos actually do better because yes, like in this example, of 932 people that started watching the video for 3play, and only 111, about sort of 12% of those watched it all the way through. But those people that are really engaging with those videos, they're super valuable. They now know a lot more about your brand. So why cut down the video? Instead, what I think is really important is the concept of front loading your video. So what front loading your video means is that you can make it longer, but put any key information, really pull people in, draw that audience in the first few seconds. So hopefully we can get this video to play here. Great. So we're just watching this. So this video, it's a 7-minute video about this sort of spicy ramen noodle challenge. And the presenter here, she's doing this kind of lengthy introduction, but what they've done is they've cut it with the first sort of about 9 seconds there with some sort of interesting excerpts from the video. So you watch that first 10 seconds, it's like, oh my God, these people are sort of burning up, eating these spicy noodles. Okay, I'm going to watch the rest of it, rather than having this slow burn introduction. So that's kind of what we're trying to do in our Facebook ads. You can make them as long as you want, but really front load that first few seconds. So when people scroll through their newsfeed, the video starts auto playing. But like, hey, this is really interesting. Okay, let's watch more. And then they can watch more of the video and really understand your brand or the proposition from there. And then another video tip, use square format rather than landscape. Landscape's quite an old format. I know that a lot of videographers are still recording everything in the landscape format because that's the way it's always been done. Looks good on YouTube, looks good on TV, etc. But really, you can see with these ad examples here, when we use square, it takes up the same width, but it also takes up a lot more vertical space here. So just simply that your ad is larger on a mobile device is going to fill up a majority of the screen, and that's going to help people to really take notice of your ads there. So when somebody's producing a video for you, if it's animation, get them to produce it in square. If they are doing normal video recording, then try and make sure they always center the shot so that they can then crop to a square canvas afterwards. Now, a lot of videographers, quite understandably, aren't thinking about Facebook ad formats. They're just thinking about what looks nice on a big screen. So just make sure before any shoots, let them know you need it cropped to square and get them to supply that there. Now, another tip for video. I know we've got quite a few tips here, but like I said, image or video is really the key to success with your ad creative. It has the biggest impact. So I think it's really important to convey some of these tips here. So I think it's important with your video, when you upload it to Facebook, to upload a separate video thumbnail. The reason for this is we did one of our $1,000 experiments when we put $1,000 of our own ad spend into seeing what works now. And we tested a video. And what we did on there is we tried the same video, 4 different thumbnails there. We can see that we got 2 at the top there, which are like a person. Then we've got 2 at the bottom, animation. Well, these are cartoon graphics, and we've got some with text and some without. And the natural ones there, we can see they averaged about $25 to $27 for that lead gen there. And the cartoony ones there, some are even double. So it's exactly the same video, but just tweaking that thumbnail on Facebook, you can halve your costs. So something that's often overlooked, but can be super important. So make sure when you specify the video, also test or specify the thumbnails there. So that's my tips for images and videos. Hopefully you find something useful there that you might not have thought about how to optimize your creative assets for social media. And now we're going to move on to the next most important part of your ad, which is the headline. The good thing with headlines is you can't get too creative. You can't be Shakespeare here. You've only got about 6 to 8 words maximum. And always check your preview for mobile. Facebook or AdEspresso give you all the different previews. Check them on mobile to make sure no words are getting cut off at the end, because on desktop you can have a slightly longer headline. And really, you've got to be short and to the point. In your headline, you've got to summarize one key point. Don't be vague. Don't try to get too clever with this, which I know as copywriters like to do sometimes, but we've just got to keep it blunt. I'll give you some examples here. In my mind, the headline, remember, it's the bottom bit of the ad here. It just says AdEspresso, start your free 14-day trial. It's a good headline because it name checks the brand and states what the offer is. Whereas I think an example of a bad headline is, where we're trying to get too clever here. This advertising tool is a must-have. This just doesn't tell us anything. If somebody's thumbing through and we've got 1 to 2 seconds, it doesn't really give much information there. So don't get too clever. Think about the brand, just tell people the offer, and that can be helpful. The next thing to think about is your different placements if you're using Instagram as well. By the way, this isn't an actual live coupon code. This was just an example that I created. I haven't actually run this ad, so don't start typing in that code. It's not going to work. But we can see that we might have something really important in the headline, like in this case, an exclusive discount code. But if we go onto Instagram, well, on Instagram ads, there's no such thing as a headline. So we're telling people use your discount code now, and they don't get the discount code. So make sure that you're always checking all your different ad previews if you're using multiple placements, and adapt your ad creative to suit those. So like what I would actually do on this case is I would be writing the offer in the ad text itself. And quite often when I write ads, I duplicate the headline in the actual body into that ad text. Well, that looks repetitive. The reason is a lot of my ads are going to be showing on Instagram. So I need to think about, okay, if they can't see that headline, let's go and reinforce the message in my ad text there. So if you haven't thought about that before, check your previews. Make sure that it's good to keep the headline short to the point, but don't rely on it showing in all of your placements there. Then we're kind of moving down the list here. So going on from the headline, we next get to the primary text, or what we call our ad text. Now, because you've got more room on the primary text, you can actually go as long or as short as you want. This is a whole topic. You could probably create a lengthy textbook here or a seminar on copywriting. But what we're going to do is just cover some key points. Like I said at the beginning of the webinar, I just want to make this short, actionable, just get your ads off the ground there. And the way that I look at it is the key thing in marketing is to think about features versus benefits when you're writing your ads. What do I mean by this? Okay, a really classic example is back in the day when Apple released their first iPod. This is it here. I remember those. They could have talked about features, and this is what other brands did that were their competitors, like how much RAM has it got, how much hard drive capacity, what file formats does it play, what ports has it got. But Apple actually played a blinder with this. They created an extremely good ad, and I'll just show that now. So Apple's sales proposition is to have 1,000 songs in your pocket. So rather than the features and talk about the file formats and capacity, they talked about the benefits. What does this mean to the end user? Why are they going to engage with this product? Why are they going to buy this product? The benefit there is 1,000 songs in your pocket. So always think about not getting too technical with your ads and just listing off all the features. There are times when you want to cover some of your features, but really think about turning it around and talking to the customer and think about the benefits. Again, it all ties together. If we've got our customer avatar, we know what their motivations are, we know their name, kind of what they want from us, then we can think about tailoring the benefits to them. And this is my extremely super simple template that I use when writing an ad. It's really relying on the classic principles of copywriting. There are books from the 1920s that I've written, sorry, not that I've written, that I've read. They were written in the 20s about copywriting. They're using the same principles, even way before Facebook or social media or computers. The classics of copywriting are there, that you're looking to cover some features, some benefits, you need an offer, and some sense of urgency there. I got an example here that I created. AdEspresso allows you to create ad variations for split testing with just a couple of clicks. Create ads in minutes instead of hours. Get a free 14-day trial if you sign up before the end of the month. You know, let's break this down. Is that our feature is that AdEspresso allows you to create ad variations for split testing with just a couple of clicks. Now we need to turn that around, and what's the benefit to the end user? Well, the benefit is that they're probably going to be busy, and they can create ads in minutes instead of hours using AdEspresso. And then to hook them in, we've got an offer. We've got that free 14-day trial. And then we need to make sure they take advantage of that offer straight away and not just save it for later. So you only get that offer if you sign up before the end of the month there. And so that's the kind of breaking down a classic features, benefits, offer, urgency ad text that's been used for hundreds of years there. Now, another thing with your primary text there is that when you write it, you really need to front load it. Just like we saw front loading your videos, you need to front load your offer in your ad text. The reason why is because different placements sometimes only show a select amount of the ad text before the user has to click on the See More button. So example of that ad now here, it's only a few lines, 2 paragraphs, and that's how it would show on desktop if somebody's clicked the See More button. You know, we've got to think about when people are scrolling through on mobile, because that's where nearly all ads are shown. So what they're going to see is just those first few lines there. So, you know, if I just go back one slide, then what I've done here is I kind of put some waffle at first. This kind of like, hey, as a busy marketing executive, and then the core proposition that is going to save you several hours a day in that 14-day trial and that sense of urgency is below the fold. So when somebody's scrolling through, they're like, oh, blah, 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 busy marketing executive, and could scroll past. So this is why we need to change it around and go straight away. AdEspresso is going to save you several hours a day. Here's a free 14-day trial. You, by all means, put all the extra features, benefits, whatever you like below the fold. But we really need in that first 3 lines, make it count. Just really edit your ads, turn around the ad copy to put the most important thing at the top, not like in this example. On Instagram, it's even worse. You haven't got that headline and people only see 2 lines. So again, when we put this fluffy, busy marketing executive stuff, people have no idea what the proposition is here. They're going to scroll it straight through. So instead, we would be wanting to turn that around and cover a benefit or an offer or that sense of urgency straight away. So always front load your ad text, really, really important. And of course, the question that we get asked at AdEspresso all the time, really popular question for ad creative, is how long should my text be? Because it really is open-ended. We did run a $1,000 experiment on this, and we tested different lengths, like from 1 sentence to 1 paragraph, 3 paragraphs, 6 paragraphs, tried some emojis, some bullet points. And what we saw here, this is a table that we could see for lead generation. The cost to get a lead magnet downloaded went from under $5 to nearly $12, so over a 2x difference there. Now, I should have probably put some flashing lights on this slide, but I'm not saying that you need to use 1 paragraph and that you shouldn't use 1 sentence. What I'm saying is that testing can make a really big difference. This is going to be different depending on how complex the product is there. So use a system like AdEspresso where you can be testing these, because if you can take that same kind of ad creative but tweak the ad text, you could be halving your whether it's cost per click, cost per lead, cost per purchase, make a big difference to the outcome of your campaigns. Personally, my take-home message for when I'm writing ad copy is I will start short, that I'm not necessarily a specialist copywriter, so I'd rather write short and produce good, concise ad copy rather than completely mess up by writing something that's long but isn't very good there. So if you're not a specialist copywriter, keep it short. If you are a good copywriter, then by all means go longer. Also, it depends on how complex your product is. If it's something very simple for people to understand, then keep it short. If it's something that people need to get their head around it, they need more information, then of course go longer there. So what's going to work for one brand is different to another. And then going to the next element here, so we've covered images, we've covered headlines, we've covered ad text. We're now moving down that list, and we could be looking at your call to action buttons. I've listed out some of the ones here. There might be some extra specialist ones as well. We can see there's dozens of different buttons. Now, which one do you choose? Well, we did another $1,000 experiment on this, and we tried same ad, but with different call to action buttons. We had one without any button, we had a sign up, a learn more, download. This was obviously for lead generation. And we found that you definitely want a button. If you don't have a button, it's quite expensive, and then different call to actions can make a difference. Again, I'm not saying you've got to use download here instead of sign up. What I'm saying is test these. Certainly we want to be testing our images or videos first, and then headline, then ad text. So this is quite a minor test, but it still makes a difference. You can still halve the ad cost there. If you're not sure what to do, because I know that you need a starting point, the kind of catch-all general one is learn more. You can't go wrong with the learn more button. And if you're doing e-commerce, then shop now is going to be a no-brainer. But then you can be testing different ones for certain different propositions there. So yes, always test these. This is where AdEspresso can be really good for testing. So then you can see how to cut down your costs. And then moving on now, I think we've covered the sort of the main parts of a standard newsfeed ad. So I've just got a couple of slides on Instagram stories. Instagram's very different because you've got a 9:16 vertical ad format. So very, very different to a newsfeed ad. And the limitation is that you don't have that headline or that ad text, is that what you see here is a real ad example. It will come up with a little button at the bottom where you can swipe up for like shop now or learn more or anything. But you can see there's really not much to go on with the ads. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to think about the way to get around this, and that's usually going to be video. So let's just show this video briefly. So you can see that's a 15-second video, and it conveys the message even though we haven't got that ad text and we haven't got that primary text, because we can put text in the video. We could be using stickers, we could be using emojis. Remember, Instagram stories, much more fun, informal ad format. Well, just a natural organic post compared to newsfeed. So, you don't have to use video, but generally I'm using it a lot for Instagram stories, just because that's the only way I can really convey my message when I've got such a limited format there. You're generally wanting to use 1080 by 1920 pixels or above. I found a bit of an issue. I don't know if it's just related to some of the ads that I run, but it's like a glitch that if I'm using a lower resolution, lower number of pixels, the images get quite fuzzy. So I need quite high res, high number of pixels on there. But yes, definitely consider using 15-second video. You can tell much more of a story there. So I hope you find some of those tips useful, some just sparks of interest there. Think about how you can map out your own process to make a simple, replicable template there to create your ads. I'm going to end up by giving you some resources. First of all, Facebook have got a guide. It's kind of interactive. You can choose your placement, choose your ad format, and it tells you what the dimensions are. Extremely useful. So that's facebook.com/business/ads-guide, or Probably if you Google Facebook ads guide, hopefully you can find it there. But yeah, it gives you some nice examples as well. So if you're thinking, hey, I don't know what format I need for, I don't know, Instagram stories or carousel or something there, Facebook has got this interactive guide to tell you. Another really useful resource is this spy tool, which is Facebook Ads Gallery. This has got every live ad plus a 7-year archive of political and social ads. So what you can do is going from the top is you can decide your country, or you can default to all if you want to. And then you can decide whether you want to see general ads or political ads, and then you can search by brand. And then you can look at all the ads that they're running. So, you know, if you're like stuck, you need some inspiration, then you could look at competitors and maybe see if you can adapt those ideas. But you can also just look at brands that you admire. I do this quite a lot. If I'm starting with a new client, I don't know much about the industry, then I can see what the competitors are running and say, oh yeah, maybe we need to do some lead generation first, or how can we stand out from competitors and things like that. Or just look at brands that have got some really nice ads running and thinking if I can adapt that style for some of my ads. And then final resource for you is if you want some curated ad examples, you can go onto the AdEspresso website, adespresso.com/ads-examples there, and you can look at some curated ad examples. So thank you for joining me today. And what I want to do is give you a little thank you offer. So you can get a free 14-day trial and 30% off. This is exclusive for webinar viewers. So adespresso.com/AE-webinar there. And then if you're thinking, hey, this is really good, but I need some extra help. I need somebody to sort of hold my hand with strategy a bit. We do offer some ad services. We don't want to be just a software tool, because you might not know how to get the most out of it unless you've got the right strategy in place. So for AdEspresso users, or if you take out that free trial, you can go to the services tab in AdEspresso and you can book services. We have campaign reviews, which are 10-minute tactical reviews, making sure that you've set up your campaign correctly. And then we can also offer one-to-one strategy calls, basically power hours, and cover anything that you want, whether it's about ad creative or about optimization or pixels or anything there. We provide this service both for Facebook and Instagram, and also for Google search ads. Then we've got a couple of webinars coming up. So I've got one in June that I'm running on how to scale your ads. So, you know, if you've got something that's working successfully and you're thinking, right, how do I go and get more leads, sales, engagement, traffic, whatever your objective is, then I'm going to show you how to scale your ads there. Also make a note that we're going to be running one on June 10th with some Google strategies as well. We haven't got that listed on the website yet, but it's going to be coming soon. So adespresso.com/webinars to register for all our free webinars. So thank you for joining me, and we've got a little bit of time just for a couple of questions there. So just give me a second and I'm going to look at some there. Okay, let's have a look. So yeah, I got some questions about how much text there should be on images for like video thumbnails or on the images in general. The good news now is that Facebook has removed what was known as the 20% text rule. So it used to be that if you had more than 20% text on your images, then Facebook used to penalize you for that. It either cost more to distribute your ads, or eventually if there was too much text, they'd stop running. So you can now go and put some text on there. All I would say is that you have got the headline underneath and you've got the ad text above and a call to action button. Do you really need loads and loads of text on the ad there? You know, can you make your image shine? Can you have that thumb stopping content? Of course, always test. So try what images, text versus no text on there. But generally for cold traffic ads, I really want to make the most of the image there. For remarketing, that could be a bit different. Maybe you've got a coupon code, a special offer. That's where I might be more inclined to be using my my text on the images there. See some other questions from like Melinda. So yeah, just asking to define what CPA is. CPA is your cost per action. It's usually something like your cost per lead, your cost per purchase, or cost per engagement. It depends really what you're tracking as the main outcome there. But really, whenever we're running ads and creating different ad creative, you know, we're not just trying to make ads that look good. It is nice to have something that really, you know, makes your brand kind of stand out. But at the end of the day, we need effective copy that is going to get us more leads, sales, traffic, or whatever our main objective is. So that's why we're testing different things there. Question here from Mariana asking about the different lengths for different stages of the funnel for your videos. So you can test, but I really think it's a case of those front loading some of those videos. So you can have it as long as you want, but you need to get across the key message in the first few seconds, because most people are going to see the videos on autoplays. You've got kind of that 2-3 seconds just to go, bam, this is what it's about. Very different to say, you know, TV ads when you've got more of a captive audience, or even on YouTube. Like what somebody does on YouTube is they intentionally click on the video. They're going to give it 30 seconds to evaluate before they decide whether to click on the next one or whether they're going to settle down and watch it. So with that such a short time to capture attention on Facebook, front load your videos, but don't think that necessarily means that you then need to go super short with all your videos there. And I've got last question, because I know we're slightly over time, about page post ads, whether there's any difference on running the page post ads. And generally, it really depends how you format the page post. Sometimes they've got headlines underneath, sometimes they don't. It really depends if you're linking to a different site, the way that you put the link in there. So really just have a play with those, see how they look. You know, look at the previews before you decide whether to boost those posts or not. But generally, what I would say is that with the dark posts that we've covered today, that aren't page posts, they're actually standalone ads. It just means that you can be split testing a lot more images or headlines or ad text. Of course, you could be boosting several different page posts to split test those, but generally that's going to make your feed very messy on your Facebook page. If you've got like, you know, 6 posts that are more or less identical but with different headlines on those. So yes, I would recommend running dark posts where possible there. So I hope you find all those tips useful, and we'll try and get the replay to you as soon as possible. And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.